And thank you all for being here this evening. I want to talk this evening about this book called The Amen Effect by Rabbi Sharon Brous. Uh, Deanna had asked me before Minyan started whether I knew Rabbi Sharon Brous. It's a legitimate question to ask. She is a conservative rabbi, a graduate of the same rabbinical school that I'm a graduate of. But no, I don't know her through that. But there is this weird story in that her brother-in-law, she's married to a man named David Light, and David's brother Stuart was in my bunk the year that I was a counselor at Ramah Poconos. So her husband and his family is from Philadelphia, and went to Camp Ramah Poconos, and I had the pleasure of having her brother-in-law in my bunk. But that's not really. I don't know Rabbi Brous, but it's like I can say I know Jacob Tapper also from CNN because he wasn't in my bunk, but I was a division head and he was in a division one year at Camp Ramah Poconos. So yeah, I have this very, very loose, distant connection to some famous people. Um, so a couple of things I wanted to say about the Amen Effect. It is a small book, so it's smaller than a normal size book, um, and then to be able to read it fairly quickly, but it still has some deep and profound ideas about relationships and how to and that the key to uh, people being able to make it through life, both in the good times and in the bad times, is through relationship with others, and that is not just a one-on-one relationship and deep, powerful one-on-one relationships, but relationship in community, and that the community relationship is one that should be very open and very honest and very I want to say, I guess, that it's not about like joining a country club for the sake of being with the in crowd and making appearances and having to live up to a particular kind of a place in society. That's not what being part of a community is. Being part of the community is one in which you know that somebody's going to care about you and you're going to be caring about other people. So it's a community of reciprocal relationships that are then supportive relationships, caring, nurturing, um, and and growing kind of relationships. That's what's described in this book, and it's all based on um, on two stories. In her introduction, she refers to a story about a boy lost in the woods, can't find his way out, but then sees a girl and says, "Do you know the way out?" She says, "No, but maybe we can find our way out together." So that's story number one. That kind of leads us into what the book is about. That we need help. We can't do everything on our own in this world, and we need to know that our job is to find other people and to develop relationships with other people, to trust other people, so that together we can benefit one another and be even better than we could be on our own. The other is, if you have the book in front of you, it's on page 196. She refers to this midrash, or this law, really, that's in the Mishnah. So the Mishnah is the first collection of Jewish law, edited by the rabbis 1800 years ago. It is edited. It's 300 years worth of teachings by the rabbis that were edited into this 6-volume work, and that is the first literary product of what we call rabbinic Judaism. So Judaism, as we know it today, is really a product of the rabbis who produced the Mishnah. So in interpreting the Torah to develop Jewish law, the rabbis taught over a period of 300 years, 100 BCE to 200 CE, and then edited what they had taught and been passed down in the rabbinical academies in Israel into the Mishnah, 6 volumes, like I said. And then they kept on learning and studying another 300 years in Babylonia and produced the Babylonian Talmud. So the Mishnah and the Talmud are really the basic books of rabbinic Judaism based on the book of Judaism, the Torah. So there's Torah, Mishnah, and Talmud that are really the building blocks of who we are as Jews today. That is where our moral, ethical, religious principles come from. So in this Mishnah, we learn the following. All who entered the Temple Mount entered by the right, circled to the right, and exited by the left. Okay, so when you enter the temple, and this is anybody who's been to Jerusalem, and especially the old city of Jerusalem, if you've been to where the egalitarian Kotel is, so you're looking at the Temple Mount, you're looking at the western wall, that's the retaining wall holding up the Temple Mount. The wall, if you can picture in your mind's eye, if you've been to Jerusalem, to the old city, you know that there in front of the western wall, there is the men's section for praying and the women's section for praying, right? And the men's section a lot bigger than the women's section, and behind it, huge plaza area. But if you're looking at the Kotel, then next to the women's area is this temporary kind of ramp that leads up to, if you look on the top of the ramp, it leads through a gate to get into the Temple Mount. On the other side of that ramp structure, the Kotel continues, but it is an archaeological site where the Masorti movement and the Reform movement in Israel run that area for egalitarian prayers. But it's also the Israel Antiquity Authority that runs that place as a place to visit to see the boulders that the Romans pushed over the Temple Mount 2,000 years ago. And some of them have Hebrew writing on it from the temple itself. So it's very cool to see and very meaningful to see. Then you go around the corner to get to the southern wall and you see steps. The very stairs that Jews, our ancestors, would walk up in order to get into the temple courtyard to do whatever business you're going to do up there. 3 times a year, the pilgrimage holidays, people would go up there. Other times of the year, if you have like an offering to bring or something like that, there are opportunities for average Israelites to go up there. And if you're going to go up there, there's a way to go. And also, again, the Mishnah says, all who entered the Temple Mount entered by the right, circled to the right, and exit to the left. So picture there are 2 doors to go through, or 2 openings, 2 archways. When you go up the stairs, you're supposed to go in on the right door, and then go around the temple courtyard counterclockwise. Okay, you enter, and there's a courtyard area, a rectangular square area. You walk to the right and you stay to the right, and you're going in a counterclockwise way around the area and exiting in the left door. Except, the Mishnah continues, for one to whom something had happened, who entered and circled to the left. So everybody who anybody who's there is there for a reason. And you could just be there to bring the sacrifice for the pilgrimage festival, whatever offering would be for the pilgrimage festival. That's a reason to be there. You don't just walk in. You're walking in for a reason. But some people might have had something happen to them in their lives since the last time they were there. And if something happened to them in a negative way, there's a death that had occurred within the year, or even somebody who had been condemned to be excommunicated, would still be commanded to come in for the pilgrimage festival. So they would walk into the left. So they're going against the traffic. And it's clear then something's up with them, because everybody's going in their other way. They're seeing people coming in from the other direction. And what are they supposed to do? That person was asked. So the person who went in from the left, going against the traffic, the people who would see him from walking in the other direction would ask that person, why do you circle to the left? In other words, what has happened to you? What's going on in your life? They replied, I am a mourner. And they were blessed. May the one who dwells in this house comfort you. So we say this greeting, this blessing to mourners still today. It is traditional on Friday night, the Friday night during Shiva, for mourners who are sitting Shiva, the Friday night, the Shabbat service that happens during Shiva. There is always a Friday night during the week of mourning. They come to synagogue. The tradition is to stay outside of the chapel or the sanctuary while the opening Kabbalat Shabbat, the festive singing, is going on. And then after Lecha Dodi, where everybody stands up to welcome in Shabbat, like we're facing the entrance, we've just welcomed Shabbat, we stay standing then, and the mourner comes in at that time. And the mourner, the congregation says to the mourner, Hamakom Yenachem Etchem, may God comfort you, B'toch Sha'ar Avalei Zion v'Yerushalayim, among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. Now, they're not saying that here in the Mishnah because the temple is still standing. So, may the one who dwells in this house comfort you. So the God of this house, of the temple in Jerusalem, may God comfort you. So if they replied, because I've been ostracized, so a mourner, this is what you say to the mourner, may the one who dwells in this house comfort you. They were blessed, may the one who dwells in this house inspire your community to draw you near again. That's what Rabbi Meir says, that someone who has been excommunicated for whatever sin that they may have committed and refused to acknowledge that they committed a sin, they're still there in the temple for this purpose, and maybe you say to them, well, may we try to begin the process of working out how to bring you back into the community again. But Rabbi Yossi challenged Rabbi Meir. You make it seem as if the community treated him unjustly, like it's the community's fault for excommunicating him. Rather, they should bless, may the one who dwells in this house inspire you to hear the words of your community so that they may bring you close again. The idea behind this Mishnah is that, and the basis for Rabbi Brause's book being this Mishnah, is this radical idea, because let me step back for a second. When those of us who have studied a little bit about rabbinic literature from the time of the rabbis, the Mishnah and the Talmud, it's unusual to find rabbis who are sympathetic in this way. comforting in this way. We imagine Jewish law to be very cut and dry, and that it's maybe those of us who might be trying to get through the Daf Yomi, the page of Talmud of study every day, find that for the most part, it's pretty cut and dry and pretty obscure, the kind of laws that are being taught. So, but every now and then, there are some teachings that that reflect a little bit about how important everybody in the community is, and that nobody is above the law. Nobody, even if somebody's more knowledgeable than somebody else or wealthier than somebody else, everybody's equal when it comes to observance of Jewish law. And so that there are laws throughout the Mishnah and the Talmud that reflect this idea of how important the community is. So this is a pretty fascinating law, especially on Pilgrimage Festival. Imagine people coming to shul for Rosh Hashanah today, or for Kol Nidre today, or for Yizkor on Yom Kippur today, the most crowded times in synagogue. And imagine if we still had this procedure to come into shul the way that people were supposed to enter the temple at that time. It might be a little bit off-putting the first time we would do such a thing, but imagine if that's the way that you're supposed to come into shul. You come into shul, well, this is assuming everybody's coming into shul at the same time. So imagine coming to shul at the same time with everybody else, and if it's Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, you come into shul with 500 other people, and then you have to figure out which way you're going to go into shul. And then some people are going to go in on the right door, some people are going to go in on the left door, and then people would have to say to each other, have to be asking each other these questions. Why are you walking in a different direction? And people have to say, I'm a mourner, something else happened to me. And the community has to be there for each other to support one another and to say, we're here for you. And we hope that you can be feel part of the community and feel the blessing of this community. It's a very, very powerful thing. And it begs the question about what we do in our synagogue and synagogues around the world, what we do to try to make people feel comfortable, part of the community, and be supportive. So it's a beautiful midrash. I want to say another thing about this. Last week or so, Lenore and I went to see a play at the Studio Theater called Downstate. I don't know if it's still playing. I don't know if any of you have seen the play Downstate. It's a play about people who live in a halfway house because there's no place else for them to live. This halfway house for people who have committed some kind of sexual crime. And so it's a play about these people and somebody else who comes to try to confront their harasser from years before. So that's what the play is about. But the dramaturge for the Studio Theater, in his introduction to the play, talks about this book, which is fascinating in that this story from the Mishnah is a story that prompted, and this book, The Amen Effect, prompted the dramaturge of Studio Theater to write about how those who are cast off by society, what is society's responsibility to try to maintain connection with them and make them feel part of society so that they want to be, that they can come back to be part of society again. So it's just fascinating to me to you don't expect to be reading about a play and the description of the play a reference to a book, a very Jewish book like this one. So I just wanted to say that. So In her book, then, Sharon Brous mainly talks about founding her synagogue with two people that she randomly met at some Shabbat dinner at somebody's house or something like that out in Los Angeles. And they talk about what kind of community they would like to see, a religious community they like to see, and they decided to start the community called Ikar. Ikar means like the crux of the matter, the main thing. So that's what Ikar means. Um, um, well, there's this statement by Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav. Kol haolam kulo gesher tsar ma'od. The whole world is a narrow bridge. Ve'ha'ikar, and the main point is not to be afraid. Um, that's just a reference to Ikar in a Kol Haolam Kulo Gesher Tzar Me'od. Some people might be familiar with that tune. That's one reference to Ikar. So Rabbi Brous talks about the founding of Ikar and the nature of Ikar and the kind of work that she has done over the 25 years that she's been affiliated with Ikar in terms of building community and the kind of community based on that Mishnah that she and the founders were looking for in this. So the chapters in the book reference different aspects of reaching out to people, how community members reach out to others, how she has reached out to others, how she has provided support to other people, and then how those people that she has supported and others in the community have supported have then also given back. So there's of all the things that about the book to focus on and the stories, the one that that meant a lot to me is this in the chapter called "Hold the Healers." Like, in other words, Rabbi Brous is talking about how she herself recognized that she needed help and support from others from after all the work that she's done to try to support other people. So as she writes on page 116, it took me nearly 20 years of ministering to the brokenhearted and broken-bodied to begin to wonder what happens to all that pain, the 1/60th that the healers absorb. So that she references this idea in rabbinic literature that when someone goes to visit someone who is ill, one is helping to take away 1/60th of the pain or the illness. And so, meaning if enough people go to visit and provide support, then we take the pain away. Is it really taking the physical pain away? There's an emotional pain in suffering as well. But the caregiver or the person going to visit takes away the 1/60th from the person they're visiting. But what happens if if your job is to do visits? Like, rabbis are supposed to visit people in the hospital, in nursing homes, in hospice, provide comfort when people a death occurs and you're meeting with the family to plan the funeral, to make a shiva visit. All of these are examples of trying to take the 1/60th away. So what happens when the rabbi has lots of 60ths in their soul for all this time that they're visiting? So she asks, where does it go, this what happens to the person who takes 1/60th of someone's grief and 1/60th of someone else's anxiety, 1/60th of someone's loss, and 1/60th of someone else's heartbreak, 1/60th of the pain of the guy on the park bench, and 1/60th of the one lost in the hospital lobby. So a whole field of study has emerged in recent years on secondary or vicarious trauma, looking at the cumulative toll of trauma exposure on caregivers. It manifests in all kinds of unhealthy ways, from cynicism, avoidance, numbing, overwork, and rage to hypervigilance, chronic exhaustion, fear, guilt, addiction, helplessness, and hopelessness. Or for some of us, all of the above. We're talking about real physical and spiritual harm. So I was moved by that because I've been the rabbi of Shaarei Tefillah for almost 31 years now. I've been a congregational rabbi for almost 36 years, and I've been blessed over the years to be part of some rabbinic support groups in which we talk about this very thing, in which we've shared with each other some of the pain that we've experienced in on the job, and how then we can support one another through that. So I'm very grateful to those opportunities that I've had over the years to be able to share in order to unburden those 60ths that I've experienced over the years. So she talks a lot about some of the trauma and the horrific examples of crisis and death and accidents and things that she's had to minister to and have her congregation minister to. It's just and it's something that probably lots of rabbis could have written, but she writes it in a beautiful way in this whole idea of how to create this community of care, and so then she also applies this thinking not just to her community and the lessons that she learned from her community, but also to society as a whole, and that what society needs in order to heal. And she wrote this book 2 years ago, so not necessarily part of the presidential election most recently, but the years leading up to this, and what society has been like now with social media, and that the sense of anxiety and solitude that people feel, despite the fact of how pervasive social media is. Like we can be connected on Facebook, Twitter, or X, or TikTok, or Instagram, but really there's a lot of pressure there, social pressure, to be like these other people that you're reading about. Or there's also this a lot of hate that is expressed in a lot of social media posts that create just this society, this it just creates a sense of people can't stand one another. The venom that is spewed creates a sense of solitude, and that and even more so in this kind of atmosphere that we're living in today, how much we need a place to escape it, and to be in a place in which we can learn the right way to talk to one another, the right way to treat one another, the right way to support one another, and bless one another and feel blessed by one another. So, an important book, and if you haven't read it, I highly recommend that you do read it, because it's important for us to understand how to confront the ills of society through the positive things that she talks about in her book. Anybody have any questions or comments about anything I said or anything they read in the book? Yeah, Zella.
I couldn't find the hand. Um, I was trying to understand what her congregation was like. It sounded like she started the congregation. I thought usually there's a congregation and they find a rabbi, but
Right.
it sounded like a real alternative kind of
It
congregation.
is an alternative congregation. It's a trend in America today to have to have communities like this, spiritual communities like this, form that are countercultural in that, like you're saying, Zella, we imagine synagogues are part of denominations. Either they're a conservative synagogue, a reform synagogue, an Orthodox synagogue, and each one of those movements in Judaism have umbrella organizations for their synagogues. But there are people over the years, the past 30, 40 years, who have felt that the synagogues of these denominations are too cookie cutter and they are more formal in the kind of synagogue they are, and they're not very personal. You kind of get lost. The people who founded these countercultural communities have said these are the things wrong with synagogues today, and this is the kind of community that we're looking for. So, if you remember, there were books that were paperback books, big ones, that were published in the 70s called the Jewish Catalog. The Jewish Catalog was written by a group of people in Cambridge, Massachusetts, who are like the first ones to be this countercultural movement, to create a community that didn't need a rabbi and didn't need funding from outside, from a denomination. They wanted to just do it on their own. And that's what the Jewish Catalog was all about, how to do Judaism on your own. So it taught you how to bake. This is before the internet and before you can do everything, learn about doing everything on YouTube. There, how to bake a challah, how to tie tzitzit, how to do everything. That's what the Jewish Catalog explained. And then, so that was that was like 50 years ago already that the Jewish Catalog books came out. But since then, we have, there are communities like this there's the Capitol Hill Havurah, there's the DC Minyan, there's IKAR in Los Angeles, there's Nashuva, started by my classmate, Rabbi Naomi Levy, and all major Jewish metropolitan areas in the country have these alternative minyanim. Most of them meet in rented space. Some of them meet in synagogues themselves as an alternative minyan. Like Addis Israel has what they call the traditional egalitarian minyan that is now part of Addis Israel, but it was started by members of Addis Israel who didn't like the main service and how formal it was, and they wanted something more like hands-on, lay-led, that kind of thing. So communities like Rabbi Brous started are sprouting across the country to the point where there's an educational organization called Hadar that for the holidays I have like these booklets that Hadar produces, like study material essays for the holiday, and Hadar, it was started by graduates of the Jewish Theological Seminary, rabbis and PhD scholars, products of the conservative movement, who created an institution that would provide education for people who are then going to be members of these startup minyanim, or who might be leaders in the startup minyanim. And Hadar is so active today and so prominent that they started a rabbinical program, and they're going to start to seed congregations too. So they start as a countercultural movement, and then they're creating their own kind of denomination in the process. So so that's what Rabbi Brous was all about. And at the start of these movements, with these startup minyanim, there were some synagogues who saw them as a threat. They're taking all the energetic, passionate, caring people away from synagogue, and they're stealing them. But really, instead, rabbis and leaders of the denomination should be thinking, what have we done wrong? and how can we fix the denominations in order to make our denomination, our synagogues, dynamic again. So there are lessons to be learned from these startup minyanim for the normative synagogues and vice versa.
Rabbi, my
Yes.
daughter lives in LA and she's a member of ICAR.
Uh,
And I can confirm that they are very liberal, countercultural. I'm
yeah.
actually texting her now to see if she wants to share any information
Well,
about
I
the
tell you,
temple.
you can Google Ikar and you see YouTube videos. There's a comedian, Alex Edelman, who had a one-man
She's
show.
she's seen him at temple. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
right.
he's
So
hilarious.
there's a video from Yom Kippur services of Ikar this year in which Rabbi Brous is in dialogue with Alex Edelman. So just Google that, Rabbi Brous, Alex Edelman, and it's like 45 minutes talking about the what was it, Yom Kippur, maybe Rosh Hashanah. They're talking about the Torah reading of the binding of Isaac. And so, so I give Rabbi Brous a lot of credit for being able to attract celebrities like that and then have them in dialogue about Jewish topics. Now, I'm not sure how liberal Ikar is. I mean, they do traditional kind of davening, but in an untraditional kind of way. And just like I said, Google them. There are YouTube videos, like they publish YouTube videos every week from services. Her sermons, you can watch her sermons, but also see this dialogue with Alex Edelman. Now, do that at the same time as Googling Rabbi Elliot Cosgrove of Park Avenue Synagogue. Okay, now Park Avenue Synagogue and also Central Synagogue in New York. So these are well-established synagogues with the formal tons of members, tons of money, and both synagogues spend an inordinate amount of money on producing high quality, almost like TV productions for services every week. They have they have a full band or orchestra on the bima, and it's like this whole production. And if you Google Rabbi Cosgrove's sermons, he also will bring people in to talk and then point them out and have them come up onto the bima for his high holiday sermons. So it's just interesting to contrast. So I talked about Rabbi Cosgrove's book in the beginning of this series 2 months ago, and Rabbi Brous's book, and the totally different kind of congregations. But what Rabbi Cosgrove is trying to do is the same thing that Rabbi Brous is trying to do. Just bring people in to be able to have people have a connection to Judaism in some way. Now, Rabbi Cosgrove, give him all the credit. There's tons of money at Park Avenue Synagogue, and he has used that money to build up a huge adult education section of the synagogue. They bought another building on the Upper East Side that's just their adult education campus. And 2.5 years ago, for Israel's 75th birthday, they brought 500 people from their synagogue on a trip to Israel. So the well-established synagogue is doing great work, and the upstart synagogue, like Ikar, is doing great work too. So, it's not like, everybody's leaving to go to the upstart synagogues. It's not the case. Everybody's understanding, and it's, she just wrote about it herself, but it's not unique to Ikar. The idea of this amen effect, the idea of relationship is really is what everybody in the Jewish community is talking about, and that's what synagogues are supposed to be all about, is relationship. That's why we have our Chesed committee. That's why we try to be as as we try to ensure that everybody feels supported by the Sharei Tefillah community and feel that they are heard and they are seen, and that they can feel a sense of connection with their Judaism. So, yeah. Any other? Yeah, Zella.
Um,
Yeah,
I was struck by the description of entering left, and everybody else enters right,
yeah,
to stand out, and to be comforted by the community. And I think that's really beautiful. And
yes,
I feel the same way when and somebody who is in mourning or who has a yard site stands up for the mourner's Kaddish.
right.
Not all synagogues do that. Some synagogues, everybody stands up, and I always wonder why they don't, why everybody stands up.
So that's interesting. I think the synagogues that have everybody stand up for Kaddish might be the opposite of what this Mishnah is teaching, and that there could be a sense in some synagogues you don't want people to feel isolated in that way or to stand out, and that by everybody standing up for Kaddish, it's a way of supporting the others who are saying Kaddish. It's just a different way psychologically to try to be supportive of people who are coming to say Kaddish. Another thing, there's a tradition that when one is in mourning, when they come to shul, and this is assuming that they are a regular at shul and they have their usual spot that they're sitting in. When they're in mourning, they're supposed to sit in a different spot so that other people in the congregation will say, "Hey, how come you're," well, they're going to say to themselves, "You're sitting in a different spot? Oh, I didn't know that something happened." And it's an opportunity then for people to come up and say, "I'm really sorry that something clearly happened I didn't know," or "My blessings to you," that kind of thing. So there are things that are built into tradition in which we we help we do subconsciously, a way to for the community to then know that they need to reach out. Amy.
I just had a question about the circling that
Yeah.
she talks about in the book, which she says is so meaningful. Is there another way that that could be described, or is there more information about that?
So
Um,
we don't know exactly what happened in the temple in Jerusalem. We only know from what the rabbis write about it. And the problem with the rabbis writing about it is that it's edited 150 years after the temple was destroyed. So how reliable is the information in the Mishnah about what they describe happened in the temple? We really don't know. There is one contemporary historian, Jewish historian, is Josephus, but his history of his Jewish history, which was around the time of the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. He's writing about what happened then, but he's also writing about Jewish history. It's been called into question by historians because it's from Josephus that we have the story of Masada. Now, yes, Masada was uncovered by archaeologists, and maybe the shards, the pottery shards, had names on them that could corroborate the story that Josephus told about what happened on Masada. But other elements of Josephus's history are called into question by historians. So the so-called contemporary historian is even questioned. And then the writings of the Mishnah, which is 150 years after the destruction of the temple, also it's unclear. It's unclear how reliable this is. So maybe the rabbis are writing about what they imagine should happen if the temple were standing in their time. This is how it should happen. And then they're saying that that's what did happen. So we don't know. So it could be a vision for the future. If the temple was rebuilt, then this would be the way it would happen, how people would enter. So yeah, that's about all I can say about it, Amy. There are other descriptions of what happened in the temple that are described in the Mishnah, and again, we really don't know for sure if it happened in that way. Yeah, Zella, another question. Go ahead.
This is just a comment. I have a cousin who lives in Southern California, just about how the community is supportive.
Hmm.
Lived in Pacific Palisades. He lost his home and everything in it. And I had a very long talk with him a couple days ago. He said, with the Federation, Jewish Federation is still trying to figure out what they're going to do, but individual synagogues have reached out to the Jewish people
Mhm.
and asked what they could use. And he asked for Shabbos candlesticks and candles, and they provided.
Mhm.
And he was just so emotional about that.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
much appreciated that.
Yeah, in times of crisis like that, I mean, I had put out in the weekly update for a couple of weeks this contributing to a fund that for the federation that our federation had in order to support the Jewish community in Los Angeles. So yes, so in times of crisis like that, the bigger community helps and creates funds and creates opportunities to help Jews, because not everybody's a member of a synagogue or a member of any community. And certainly the larger the community it is, the higher the unaffiliated rate is. So, there are 300,000 Jews in the greater Washington area. We're the third largest Jewish community in North America, but I think our affiliation rate maybe is 25-30%, something like that, which is typical. Yeah, so how to reach out? I mean, synagogue would be the normal address to go to in times of crisis, but when not everybody's a member of the synagogue, then what are we supposed to do?
I,
Yes,
I don't think he's a member anymore either. He was
right,
for his daughter's bat mitzvah. They were
right.
reaching to all Jewish people, and it was just a matter of people donating. Like, can you
Yeah,
donate anything? They gave extra, candlesticks and
right.
candles, and meant so much to him.
Yeah, yeah. Any other thoughts or comments about the book? All right, thank you all for being here tonight, and it's a lot of food for thought, and hopefully there could be some things that we can apply to Sha'arei Tefillah to make our congregation even better when it comes to supporting one another. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi. Terrific book.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.